Welcome back. I'm Sam Hedden, and we have a very special guest with us today. She is an all-around amazingly talented musical artist. She does a great job at teaching others, and she does her own covers as well. I would like to introduce you to Melody Mendis. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Yay! Can I do the canned laughter?
Like a sitcom where like all of a sudden like the laughter and the clapping happens. I just had one of those buttons. That's exactly right. Yes. Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where are you from, Minnesota, or are you transplant, or how did you get here?
That's a great question. I'm a transplant from Detroit, and I moved here to be in an acting company with Carrie Margolis Brown. And now her company is in the Catskills, but that's what brought me over. And there's a whole journey associated with this. So
We have plenty of time.
I'm laughing. I'm like, do I tell the good story or the bad story? And anyway, no, but yeah. And the training, it was fascinating because at that time I was actually really kind of burned out with singing. I was at the tail end of grad school, and I don't know if you've had this experience. I know maybe a few others have, but if you go to school for something that you love, it will pretty much beat it out of you. And as much as I loved it, I was like, I need a break. And it was the most crazy experience because I'm like, I'm going into straight theater. I'm going to be an actor. Like, this is going to be my thing. And then I got cast in this production of Sleepwalkers that we did at the O'Shaughnessy. And I kid you not, what do you think I was cast as?
I don't know. That is a really good question. I'm unsure.
The lead vocalist. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so it was just like this karmic thing. I'm like, okay, you know what? I tried to leave it. I didn't want to, but it was part of my journey at that time. And then it found me again. But it was such an amazing performance because I worked with one of the actors was actually from Hungary. And ironically enough, maybe not ironically, I had to sing in Hungarian. And I was actually, doing like a birthing and death scene where I was actually interpreting with my voice what was happening on stage. And it was really powerful. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and then from then I went back into lessons, worked with Harriet McCleary from St. Olaf, and worked with some other Vicky Mountain doing like jazz improv and all this stuff because I was just rediscovering. I was like, I was trained as an opera singer. I had been in some operas back in Detroit, and I was ready to figure out who Melody was in music. Then I literally took a break, and I had fresh eyes, and I was just taking this journey, and not with the expectation of, I got to be really successful. I got to make this audition. I got to do this. Like, once I stripped myself of that and truly went on my own unique path, then it started to flow for me. And and that's when I got into 12-piece horn band, High and Mighty. I worked at School of Rock as a voice teacher, one of the lead voice teachers for 9 years. I loved the kids. And then through there, I was meeting other people, and then I formed my own band, and I got to sing at the Dakota, doing all this stuff. It was it was like I was on a raft, and I didn't know where the waterfall was. And I wasn't going to worry about it. I was going to enjoy the rapids and just take that journey. And then more recently, I discovered that I'm a really good mimic. And I was like, ooh. I mean, I kind of knew I was a good mimic, but I never really invested any energy into it. And so about 5 years ago, I was just in my living room imitating some Barbara freaking Streisand. And watching her video, imitating it, and it just dawned on me. I was like, could I really do this? Can I really? You know what? I love a good challenge. I love to feel the rush of fear and fear of failure, and just heck with it. I don't care. I'm just gonna fail. If I'm gonna fail, make it big. And then I got into the Fringe Festival, and I brought her out to play. I did a one-woman show, and it did really well.
Don't tell me not to live, just sit and potter. Life's candy and the sun's a bowl of butter. Don't bring around a cloud or rain on my parade. Don't tell me not to fly, I simply got to. If someone takes a spill, it's me and not you. Who told you you're allowed to rain on my parade? I'll march my band out, I'll beat my drum, and if I'm fanned out, you'll turn at bat, sir. Oops, I didn't bake it. Hat, sir. Guess I did make it. But whether I'm a rose of sheer perfection, a freckle on the nose of life's complexion, a cinder or a shiny apple of his eye, I gotta fly once, I gotta try once, only can die once, right, sir? Ooh, life is juicy, juicy, and you see I'm gonna have my bite, sir. Get ready for me, love, 'cause I'm a comer. I simply gotta march my ass a drummer. Don't bring around a cloud, don't rain on my parade. I'm gonna live and live now. Get what I want, I know how. One roll for the horse shebang. One throw, that bell will go clank. Eye on the target and wham. One shot, one gunshot, and I am a woman in love. And I do anything to get you into my world and hold you within. It's around and defend over and over again. I am a woman in love, and I'm talking to you. You know how I feel, what a woman can do. It's around and defend over and over again. The more I live, the more I learn. The more I learn, the more I realize, the less I know. Each step I take, Papa, I've a voice now. Each page I turn, Papa, I've a choice now. Each mile I travel only means the more I have to go. What's wrong with wanting more? If you can fly.
And that's what launched Streisand. So that's what I had been doing professionally pre-COVID more recently, and then got into doing Lady Gaga and was able to work with Minsky Theater with Jack Vitale, who's like fabulous. Also another creative kindred spirit. And so we created a show. And that was an incredible process. I mean, because I've never had aerialists and dancers with me, and I had a little band who created original tracks and was playing live to tracks in this space, this black box that you could literally virtually do anything with. And they did such an incredible job with set design and creating so that was like, oh my gosh.
I love you, my little monsters. I want you to leave here tonight, not loving me, but loving yourselves more. I don't know if you know who I am, but I have a lot of Facebook followers. Giving me a million reasons to let you go. You're giving me a million reasons to quit the show. You're giving me a million reasons. I found just in heart. She makes me realize that's why her name is Trent.
So I was like, all right, I am launching Gaga. I got this thing and then COVID hit. And then like a lot of artists, I know I can speak for myself. I just got kind of lost. I was like, what do you do in a pandemic that might happen once every 100 years that you happen to be a part of? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I lost motivation, and I was like, and then I was and then part of me was like, oh, I don't have to worry about bookings. Maybe this is a break, and then through this pandemic, I've made a lot of discoveries. I had to get a job, which was like, like, okay, at first I was like, I'm really, an artist, not like this. This is my pretend person. I'm really an artist, and I don't really work here. And, I'm just like hilarious, but I actually enjoyed it. And it was like it was strangely monumental for me to be a guest advocate at a grocery store, because it was just like, I love to be out with people. And it was hard because of a pandemic, and I live with high risk. And I was just like, you know what? I know people who are quarantined in their house who got COVID. So we are going to do the best we can, mask up and live our lives and keep our fingers crossed. But I just met some incredible people, and I just had this like kindred community.
So out of curiosity, was singing always your first love, or was it something different as you were growing up? Did it evolve into that?
Well, originally I was a figure skater.
Oh, I was not ready for that answer.
So yeah, and I was training, and I really wanted to be in the Olympics. So that wasn't going to happen. And I was, I hit about 16, and then I wasn't getting the growth that I needed to really excel. And then I hit that point, like, okay, well, what else do I like to do? I like to sing. But actually there was a defining moment in that, like toward the end of my foray trying to be a competitive figure skater, whatnot. I remember I was like in the lobby, and I had my costume on. We were doing like shows on par with the Ice Capades. And this was in Southfield, Michigan, believe it or not. But the curator worked with the Ice Capades. So we were, and I mean, it was really it was a very grueling experience, just in terms of training and costuming. And I had a huge kimono with a 30-pound battery pack wrapped around my waist. And I had to keep my arms out on my kimono for like 35 minutes. So not only did I have to train to work with a 30-pound battery pack, but I had to train to keep you know how hard it is to keep your arms out for like 35 minutes? And I really learned how to like let go of my shoulders. It was just like a total meditation, but man, my arms were buff. Like, forget about weights. Just do that. I promise you, like, it's crazy. But anyway, that was an experience. But that defining moment was, I was in the lobby at rehearsal, and I heard this, opera singing out of this jukebox. Like, I'm old, I remember jukeboxes. Not jukeboxes, sorry, boombox. Way different. I'm also old, I remember boomboxes. But, and I thought, I had this moment of clarity, and I'm like, that's gonna be me. Like, I don't know, it wasn't like I really want that. I was like, oh, it was like natural. Oh, that's going to be me. And then years later, that's when I said, oh, well, I'll just go into singing, of course. Like, that's another singular discipline that's also very athletic, and, you have to train for. Well, this is a natural progression because my brain is already trained for that.
You do voice lessons. What made you decide to start teaching those?
Well, it's interesting. Well, first of all, I love helping people, and I love helping people achieve their goals. It was in the end of my, the end of my undergrad, that I started to develop anxiety on stage. And at one point I'd had an actual panic attack. And that's like panic attacks are terrifying on top of being on stage. So that's like your worst nightmare, like all in one. You know what I mean? And so, I went to a really good grad school in Rochester, Michigan, Oakland University. And actually, yeah, that, and the training I got there, I realized a lot, and I learned a lot that, about getting through my anxiety and getting control over that, and understanding that it's kind of always around the corner, but you can keep that at bay and not fear it, right? So, on top of when I was in my voice lessons, another gift I have is intuition, but I sometimes see training like in 3D. Like I can perceive the emotional, the physical, the intellectual components of training. So it just becomes really real, and it's like a full embodied experience. And it was through conquering that anxiety, and also just the gift of being able to pull training apart, and the innate want, the want and the desire to help other people is what drew me into teaching. And I didn't teach because I could, I taught because I wanted to. And of course I can, but that's not why I taught. And I always hate that, how people say, oh, I can't, so I teach. I don't believe that. Like, that's been a big mission for me to go, you know what? I really pride myself on being able to walk the walk and talk the talk. And maybe it's just my experience. I tend to attract people who maybe have had like trauma with their singing, or told they couldn't sing and have major confidence issues. I also have advanced people who've toured and, kind of do that because that's my ability level is vast. However, I really have a special place in my heart in helping guide a person to like fall in love with their voice and to really fulfill some of those desires, no matter what it is, no matter if it's like singing in a church choir or auditioning for a musical or just singing this beautiful moment I had with a student. And she's like, I just want to sing on this recording because my son is getting married and I want to have the son and mother dance. And I have a special song in mind and I want to sing on it. And that was just like this really great journey because it was so personal and beautiful to her. And she was able to do it. And it was just like, that brought so much joy. So it's just joyful to help people fulfill their dreams.
If you could name like three, who would your top three like inspiration singers or songwriters be?
Yeah. Well, that brings me back to my early childhood when I would dance around to music in the living room, have my little impromptu dance parties, but definitely Ella Fitzgerald. Because I grew up, this is going to make sense. I also grew up with musicians. My dad was an elementary band teacher and a jazz arranger. So Ella Fitzgerald, because I loved her and her scatting and how she could imitate other instruments and just brilliance. And of course, Barbra Streisand. My favorite was her Guilty album. And I used to just imitate the heck out of that album. And my other inspiration is Manhattan Transfer. And I was really lucky. I did a cabaret conference at Yale, because cabaret is really my favorite medium. Everything I do is in the spirit of cabaret. But I was able to work with the original founder, Laurel Massé of Manhattan Transfer. And I had a one-on-one meeting with her. And oh my gosh, I was just like my mind was completely blown. I mean, to have a one-on-one consultation with an idol is like incredible. But it was so beautiful because she had her favorite cup of tea. I know, way to bring it in, right?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Being prepared. Yep.
I know. We had this beautiful, intimate moment, and she had her journal, and we were just talking about music and everything, and she told me, Melody, sing every day, even if it's just for 10 minutes, just sing. you know, and that really stuck with me. You know, just to sing, you know, even if I sometimes you don't feel like doing something even though you love it, but when you start doing it, you're like, oh my gosh, I really love it. It was just, that was like, they'll always be in my mind, just that moment with her and tea and her journal and just the wisdom that poured out of her.
So, snowball fights. That's a big one for me, because that's how I fell in love with my first husband, Elliot Gould. We were coming back from my first Broadway production. Do you know what the production was? My first Broadway. I can get it for you wholesale. You probably thought it was funny, girl, didn't you? Yeah, that's okay. Everyone does. Anyway, we were coming back from rehearsal and it was a beautiful winter night. And I just felt compelled to throw the first snowball. And then he threw a snowball. And then we got into a snowball fight. And then I just happened to fall. And then he happened to fall. And we shared a moment and had our first kiss. Isn't that nice? Oh, I love that. It must have been the mistletoe, the lazy fire, the falling snow, the magic in the frosty air, the feeling everywhere. It must have been the pretty lights that glistened in the silent night, maybe just the stars so bright that shine above you. Our first Christmas, more than we'd be dreaming of. Oh, Saint Nicholas had his fingers crossed that we would fall in love. It could have been the holiday, the midnight ride upon the sleigh, the countryside all dressed in white, their crazy snowball fight. It could have been the steeple bell that wrapped us up within its spell. It only took one kiss to know it must have been the mistletoe. Our first Christmas, more than we be dreaming of. Oh, Saint Nicholas must have known that kiss would lead to all of this. The lazy fire, the falling snow, the magic in the frosty air that made me love you. On Christmas Eve, our wish came true. That night I fell in love with you. Only took one kiss to know it must have been the mistletoe. It must have been the mistletoe. It must have been the mistletoe. One kiss to know I love you so. Thank you. You're such a great audience. Aren't they fantastic? Thank you, Julie. I'm gonna have some tea.
Everyone has that one artist where it's like their guilty pleasure, like Britney Spears or Justin Bieber, or like you don't want to admit to it. Do you have one?
Well, Taylor Swift. Okay, but no longer a guilty pleasure, because I love her last two albums. I mean, I loved her anyway, but her last two albums, especially when she got her own label, OMG. It's like, this is just like, wow, it's beautiful. And I could just fall asleep to it. But yeah, it's not like, I don't know. You know, it's kind of funny because teaching people of all ages and kids, like you always find out like, what's the next greatest, like, oh, Justin Bieber, whatever's happening, like, you know, during that timeline. And it just seemed normal to me to like belt out Firework, you know, Katy Perry. And it just was like, in fact, I was doing some work at the Ronald McDonald House with kids who were battling life-threatening diseases. And it was through School of Rock, and I was like, what could I possibly do? Like, I know music is therapeutic, and I could bring an electric guitar for them to explore, and we could explore instruments, and I could do like, I try to do structured classes for the siblings as well. But I'm telling you, nothing beat like the karaoke party, and as soon as karaoke party hit, like it didn't matter, like the kids would just come out of the woodwork and just sing along and get excited about music and everything. And I'm like, this is why I'm here. This is what this is about.
Look at that. She's like a wildcat. Oh, look at that.
Where can people find your music? Where can people find your information if they wanted to book a class or schedule you to sing Firework or Barbra Streisand, anything?
It's melodymendis.com, and I have different tabs. I have a teaching tab. I have a tab for Barbra Streisand, for Gaga, voiceover tab. And of course I'm on Facebook too, social media. So you can just put my name in, and I have like a Melody Mendis music on there as well. Like, if you know my name, you can probably find me pretty easily.
I know that my producer will definitely make sure that your website gets put on our videos. That would be great.
That's awesome.
I appreciate that. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. It's amazing. I would have never guessed figure skating to singing to even sharing having a panic attack. That's amazing. So I thank you so much for joining me, and I know the audience is going to love this interview. And this has been Sam Hedden with producer Andy Watson, and now you know Melody Mendis.
Or you can do it your way first, and then you can do it my way. I mean, we'll just
Shut
see which is better.
up.